You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
Family, we are joined by Dr. Kevin McDonald. And Aaron, I think you had a comment or question?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Good afternoon, Mr. McDonald.
Good afternoon.
One of the things I always I have a professor friend that I do a podcast with, and he's been on boards for diversity and inclusion. I have a friend that was the chief diversity and inclusion officer for Louis Vuitton for about a year. And so one of the things that we always talk about is that initiatives for diversity and inclusion sometimes begin to get derailed if you start to talk about them specifically for Black people. And that becomes an issue. And one of the things that I've always seen is that sometimes when corporations, you can talk about UVA, you can talk about any of these companies, Black people start to get lumped in to everybody. So for example, when you start to talk about a Black initiative, but we really start to talk about compensation for what has actually been lost, these companies love to talk about what has happened to Black people. But when you start to talk about compensating them for what has been done or things that have been lost, well, now we want to bring in this group. Well, now we want to bring in this group. Why is it so difficult that these companies, and just in our political system in general, to say two things can be true? Other people need to be compensated, but these crimes were also committed against Black people and they should be compensated. And that's one of the common themes I always hear in diversity and inclusion is that it's difficult sometimes to have initiatives specifically for Black Americans, specifically for that. And then I got another follow-up question.
Yeah, I think one of the common threads historically has been for many organizations, they haven't had action that matched their rhetoric, right? So in essence, the DEI talk always sounds great. And then when you really realize what the implementation is going to do and how it's going to impact you and what resources need to be committed, it's easier to make it far more symbolic, right, than action-oriented. And I think you're right. When we start talking about the historical aspects and the things that have been taken away and served to the detriment of the Black community, when you start bringing up reparations, man, it is, again, it goes back to kind of that point I made earlier. There are many in leadership that would rather move forward than this notion of going in retrospect and trying to right those wrongs of the past that way. Well, let's just kind of deal with what we're doing forward, right? And I think part of it is living in a capitalist society. People are, they are real comfortable when they have their own kind of sandbox that they've accumulated, and this notion of repairing anybody else's, that might take exactly. So I think it is the world we live in. But I do think what I've seen is after the death of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and others, you can see a number of organizations going through a level of racial reflection. And I never forget, man, I got contacted by a venture capitalist firm that was predominantly white, and they said, look, we've realized we need to be better and do better in this moment. We've talked a good game about DEI, and over the years, we've just never changed. And we want you to come in and talk to us about what we can do specifically to impact positively the Black community. Okay. And you've seen that more and more with other organizations. Again, it's taken a level of a racial crisis to get there, but I will say that there are some that have actually put significant resources back and tried to actually have kind of walk the walk that their equity talk had been for so long. So hopefully that will serve as a model for other organizations. But what you speak is fact. It's true. It's happened too many places. And all we can hope for at this point in time is that you have a number of model organizations that are saying, we need to be better and do better. We're going to be an example. Who's with us?
Yeah. And
how do you... No, go ahead.
Now, Aaron, I'm saying, hold your thought. I know you had a follow-up, because one thing I wanted to point out there, though, is that conversation that I've been a part of and hearing a lot recently is that of there's always like the strategic and the tactical, right? And a lot of times the strategic is not for everybody. Like, that's clear. Like, so how do you keep the patience? Because the main crux of what I'm getting at.
Oh, we getting ready to talk street?
Well, not like to the main
that's where we're going. Okay. All right, Aaron, I got him after you do. Go ahead.
You got to excuse racism. Kevin. But the main, being Black people, being here in Charlottesville, and like even our Mayor Walker has said the same thing. Some things are just common sense, Kevin.
It's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And as black folk, it's like after so many generations of feeling like you asking. I think Tupac said it best. Like, yeah, you gonna sing, yeah, we hungry, please give us some bread.
Yeah.
And then sooner or later you gonna kick the door down. You know what I mean? So
Right.
so just that understanding that there's a parliamentary procedure, there's necessary steps, but not giving up that fight.
Aaron, please go after you go.
So I'm just curious, being in your position, like what's some of your coping mechanisms?
So let me tell you my approach, and it's shifted over the years, and it's been really helpful. So in the beginning of at least my career, and I'm 20 plus years in, you tried to leverage the moral imperative, right? This is the right thing to do, and here's the right reasons to do it. And then that shifted after around my time at Virginia Tech, but when I went into Rochester Institute of Technology, man, and I said, look, I mean, this is important, but if we do not connect this strategically in a metric-driven way that they can see how this impacts the bottom line, and have them measure just like they would any other thing for organizational excellence, they're not going to move forward. And so that's when I shifted, man, and started focusing on metric-driven approaches around DEI that would hold folk accountable, just like business and industry were doing, attaching, it could be raises and everything to that. So I started taking that to other institutions. And then at Missouri, one amazing thing happened after the protest, man. I was taken out to lunch by leaders in the local community. So what you would think about if you're a DEI, and I think Aaron brought up the person at Louis Vuitton. When you're a DEI person, you're focusing on the organization that you're a part of, right? That's all you kind of know as far as kind of moving them forward. In Missouri, man, the community, I mean, these were heads of banks, superintendent of schools, mayor, you know what I mean? Like head of Chamber of Commerce. They took me out to lunch and they said, look, this is a get to know you lunch. And then they expressed their frustration that when the protests happened there, they wanted to roll up their sleeves and work with the university to move this work forward. And the university rebuffed them. The university was like, look, we're already embarrassed. We just want to keep our stuff in-house. Now, to put it in perspective, the NAACP issued a travel advisory ban for the entire state of Missouri. They said, we're so bad as it relates to issues of race. Don't come, don't walk, don't crawl, don't fly, don't drive into the state. So this community was saying, we just want to help change that awful national negative narrative, right? And so they said, well, we want to get to know you, but we won't let you leave this lunch until you give us a bold idea. And so I didn't have any. I'm trying to enjoy this nice lunch. And so I said, well, in between bites of salad, I said, you heard me mention this metric-driven approach that I'm trying to do at the university. Here's a bold idea, never been done before. What if we remove the higher ed reference to that strategic DEI plan, rewrote it, and have it serve as a backdrop for our entire city and county? What if we became the nation's first, the plan is called Inclusive Excellence, Inclusive Excellence City? Man, they didn't laugh me out the room. They said they connected me with designees, and then it just took off. And I said, wow, we got something. So when I came out to Charlottesville, that's what we're doing now. So beyond UVA, man, we partnered with United Way. We have grants in the community. If you are interested, if you're talking and you want to really have action that matches your rhetoric, we will give you this grant and attach assessment person to help you identify and develop metrics to move your organization forward, to hold you accountable.
You gonna give me money to talk?
Look at God.
Yeah.
Is that look at God? I am here.
$5,000, man. We gave
He
them.
said organization. He didn't say person.
I know.
Hey, look, I can go from the driver's seat to the passenger seat to the back. It's a whole car full of me. I got so many personalities in me, Kevin. You don't even know who you're talking to right now.
And we got the previous governor to adapt it for the entire state.
Yeah.
Never done before, right? So I'm just saying, again, it was this will. For me, it was a coping mechanism that I said, I can't be comfortable and complacent just in my organization.
Yeah.
I need to be able to try to show other organizations how they can hold themselves accountable as well.
Aaron, I got to ask this real quick. I'm going to lose it. Okay, so we talk about everything that we're doing. We're talking about everything that we are trying to go towards. We're talking about all these ideas, what we're doing. Now, speaking, so to speak, black folk talk, tell us what not to do that's going to mess you up. Just like we talk in the house, you know what I'm saying? So for my black people, Marsha, how you doing? There's a way we talk in the house when we say, you bet not X, Y, Z. So in order for us to help ourselves with you, tell us what not to do.
Yeah. Let me tell you. Boy, have me back on this show. This is great. I love this. I can tell you this: what will definitely make my job harder and less long lasting is if you do all this stuff and the community still tries to send messages back to the university like, Kevin's not about it. He's not about nothing. I mean, he's doing this, but it's always, not enough. Versus saying, look, this is a step in the right direction, but we can't take our foot off the gas. Now let's move on to another initiative. This is another important opportunity for us to develop. The counter is true, right? It can happen that a community, you say, well, yes, we'd like partner on this, and you do it, and they say, well, you know what? He's really not about this community. He's not about this. And again, if you continue to say that narrative, at some point in time, I may not have the latitude to provide that support.
Somebody got to be the scapegoat.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Then you're like, okay, on to the next diversity officer.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
Just trying to. I mean, of course, where I need to do better, I want to be able to do that and hear that. But if we say collectively, we co-create, we say this is important, and we're able to work with the community to make that happen.
That's right.
Don't take that rug out then and say, well, no, that's not what we wanted. You're really not supportive of the community. Then if you would have done this or done this. Because when I go back and have a conversation with the president, he's going to be like, I thought you said that this was a step in. I thought so too.
Right. Absolutely.
So come to the gospel show, please.
That's right. Hey, look.
Please.
Hey, Razor, I'll add one to that too. Don't sit there don't wait till he leaves because we burnt him out. Then have your mouth open.
Man, what you talking about?
Like you hear these opportunities, you see the extended hand. Let's take this man at his word.
Absolutely.
Aaron, you still have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I just think that and I appreciate everything that he's stating because it's good to have people like himself that are serious about solving the problem. I think diversity and inclusion literally needs to be looking at some of the issues that we've had specifically as Black people and us not being in those organizations as literally being criminal. It has to be, it's criminal. Like, for example, I'm in banking and finance. What the United States, white supremacy, whatever you want to call it, has done to Black people in the area of finance and banking and the things that we have lost is criminal. And so when I hear organizations say stuff like we don't have enough qualified Black clients or qualified Black, resumes or not enough, I'm like, well, what did you expect from the people that are coming from them? You see what I'm saying? What did you expect to have when these people are coming through the door? Because we're coming from these different environments. So it's criminal and it should be treated that way. And I think that sometimes, it's not an offense to him, but sometimes even the term diversity and inclusion makes it sound too nice for me.
Right.
It's like, no, this thing is a little bit more serious than somebody needs to be included. What you did as an organization, you may not want to admit it, was criminal to these people.
Right.
And if I was on trial, Razor knows this, if I'm on trial, I'm going to be prosecuted thoroughly and I'm going to have a penalty. Well, what is the organization's penalty for the criminal acts that they've done against our people?
You know, that's one thing that I got to ask too, because I ran across this some years ago. Max and Charles had a diversity inclusion celebration over at Sam's Club, right? And in one of my businesses, I would have the pastors come in and say, well, what do you mean by inclusion? So what they were trying to find a way of not looking racist. So they blamed it on something else. Well, are you going to have gay people there? Are you going to have people that don't believe in God wholly? Are you going to, they were looking for, nobody wants to look racist because, the world will come against you at that point. But when it comes to things like we have to label our organizations diversity inclusion to be able to get people to understand that we need a leg up or just stop shutting the door in my face, right? But those words can also be used against us for a person. So how do you combat that? Because, we African Americans are in gospel radio and, God. So is everybody included in the Bible? Some people are going to tell you no. So then you got people that may not come just because they feel like you're allowing other people to have a voice. How do we combat that as a people?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is as a community, we recognize that there's a need for specificity sometimes, right? That's why we have Cultural Month, right, as well, right? I mean, there's a need for specificity. There's a need to focus on some of the historical detriments that have happened, right? So even as we talk about, oftentimes I'll say, look, here's diversity kind of thought of broadly as the various mix and combinations of human differences, but that does not mean we take our eye off of the historical needs that have served to detriments of specific communities.
Yeah, two things can be the same at one time.
That's right.
Yep.
And to Aaron's initial point and question, let me just say, one of the ways that I've tried to do that, I remember I started it, and Charles knows because his son participated. I started this initiative called MoCA, Men of Color, Honor, and Ambition, and part of it was just because of the negative narratives that have been associated with men of color in general, broadly, and specifically for Black men. And and I'm telling you, I didn't know where this would go, but I started with this collegiate students at RIT, and the cumulative GPA for our male students of color was like a 2.36, man. And right now, it was just a negative. All the stigmas attached to, all you need all this remedial support just to make it, man. And I remember talking to some of these young men. I said, man, I think we can change that, man. And we started this program called MoCA, and it was really everything I wish I had in college but did, man. And we poured in them with everything, not just mentors, man, in business and industry. We partnered with Dale Carnegie to give them C-suite executive level management training.
Yes, sir.
We gave them workshops on everything from personal finance, branding, networking, community service, health and wellness. And then at the end of the experience, if they participated at a high level, we gave them a tailor-made suit, shirt, tie, shoes. Right? I mean, literally, they would choose the fabric. And it would be made their name on the inside. And I wasn't sure where this was going to go, right? These students started outperforming the general population of students, and they graduated. And I started getting calls by places like Apple and Intel and Google and JP Morgan Chase. Disney flew me out, and they said, look, man, they said, we're hiring these students. They look like our VPs. They got confidence like out the roof. And they're outperforming all first-year associates. It doesn't matter if they've gone to an Ivy League or not. We've asked them where we can find more of them, and they sent us to this MoCA. What's that MoCA program? And so, man, for me, that was one of the things. And I took that and expanded it to Missouri, to 4 institutions and an HBCU, and then we expanded it to high schools. And coming out here, we expanded it to middle school as well. But I say all that to say to your point about this, them saying like we can't find these candidates, right? Some of those students graduated. They went on. I'm following that first cohort, man. Right. This one guy just finished his MBA at Northwestern, right? Getting married, working for Bain Consulting, changing stuff. This other brother's going to start a venture capitalist firm, went on to Tufts for graduate school and wants to do venture capitalists to help support Black and brown communities. And all of them are saying, look, man, MoCA gave us that confidence. You poured into us. When we didn't see it in ourselves, you saw it in us. And now they're going out and changing things for the BIPOC community. And I think that's what we have to do more of unapologetically.
Shifting the culture.
Yeah. What drives you?
Literally, man, I wake up every day just wanting to have a positive impact on people. I mean, literally, that's it. As idealistic as it sounds, I feel like I've been called to do this work to have a positive impact on communities, man, organizational, local communities, communities that have often, been called less than. I mean, and to the extent that I can stop being effective doing that, I need to get out of the field.
I understand all that. What drives you?
Just the ability to, what drives me? When I see the communities thriving because of some things that we've been able to bring to them. I mean, organizational communities, local community, whatever, that what we've done has been able to help.
Okay.
Literally, when they say this has helped us, that's what I feel like I'm supposed to do in this role.
Got you. Okay.
Miss Max?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, is there anything else in the pipeline that your department is working on for the Black community, specifically in Charlottesville?
You know what? And Razor brought this up, I think, maybe before we even got started, about kind of navigating a community when you're not from Charlottesville and they have kind of expectations that. So I've joined some efforts around with members in the community and outside of the community called Black Empowerment Coalition, and really just wanted to be a supportive pillar. But one of the questions as that group has been moving forward and has been engaged in the community is to make sure, look, I don't see enough people from Charlottesville on the community, and so
that's right.
But I'm excited about what they are attempting to do, and it initially started, I think, with a vision that Wes Bellamy had of trying to get more Black representation on boards, and I think it's grown, with the involvement of others, Mary Coleman and others that have just said, look, there's even more that we can do in this community. And, I'm just happy, again, just to be a partner, man, and help out in whatever ways they and the community deem most appropriate for my role and sphere of influence at UVA.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you for all that work, man.
And
and the last thing that I have, we may can close unless anybody else have anything, is got to ask. We have a new governor. You're a leader at a state institution, and there's talk right now, about something that was started as a legal term that is a college, taught sort of ideal that the definition has been misconstrued of CRT, critical race theory. And now there's even talk that I'm hearing about the governor may ban or outlaw words like diversity, inclusion. So I'm just thinking, how are you prepping for that? Like, what intel can you give us, and what the community should know in support of your work that may be on the target right now? Yeah,
I will say, man, I have been at least battle tested coming from the state of Missouri. Incredibly conservative. In fact, after the protest, man, they cut the university's budget by a significant amount. I mean, after the protest, about $200 million. And they said, we're cutting your budget because you let the inmates run the asylum. You know what I mean? So
Trumpish.
Yeah. So I'm coming into that, recognizing that not all of it is business as usual. This is important work. We still got to move it forward. But we're probably going to have to be far more savvy, with how our approach is. And part of that is to let the community also know, look, this is still important. We're going to navigate it, but we're going to have to think strategically about how to do it in a way that allows us to continue to do it the next day and the next day and the next day. It got so bad in the state. I mean, we couldn't even bring in speakers without the state legislature approving them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't know how far it may get here and what – what we'll have to navigate, but there are definitely signs, that it's not going to be business as usual. The diversity office, I mean, it was kind of you saw it almost disbanded and reconfigured already. Almost it felt like instantaneously as soon as January came. And if you go there now, you can't find some of the efforts that we had partnered on with the state to do to advance this work. So it's going to be interesting. I saw an article by the Wall Street Journal that said one of the first orders of business was stopping state agencies from requiring diversity, equity, inclusion statements. And so I don't know where it's going to go, but I know that this work is incredibly important now to continue to be committed to it and to move it forward. And I just have to, with every kind of proclamation that's made that comes from the state about what we can and can't do, have to think how we can strategically continue to move this really important work forward in an amazing community that's been really supportive of my work thus far.
The last thing I'd like to say.
Are you already having these conversations within the university with people like the president?
We are. Yes, I sure am.
Yeah, so you feel supported?
I do.
Okay.
I do. Okay. Yeah, I do. I am incredibly grateful for the president's support and the support of other leadership colleagues. I mean, if you think about it, again, I can't speak to the history, but at this stage right now, we have a black athletic director, first African-American woman athletic director in the Power 5. We have a black dean of the Batten School of Leadership and Public Policy. We have a black dean of McIntyre School of Commerce. We have a black dean of the School of Architecture. And who knows what will happen with some of the other searches. And at one point, we had someone in the health system who was providing this for black, and we had a black dean of the medical schools, right? So so I just think this is an important time that we cannot take our foot off this gas, right? We're making some important moves visible that you can see. And I'm just hopeful that we will continue to push this work incredibly important work forward.
Yeah, last thing I'd like to say is I'm honored to have had this conversation with you. You're definitely a boss, you know what I'm saying? And the only thing I would venture for you to say, because I know other parts of the world better than I know the rooms that Charles and Aaron have been bringing me into here lately, what I would recommend for you is to recreate yourself. You know what I'm saying? Because the work can't stop when you decide to stop. And I would do it under the cover of night. I wouldn't let anybody know who you're bringing up, because you said that things are going to change. You're going to have pieces in play that don't look normal, that are effective before that storm comes,
Appreciate that. Yeah.
I tell everybody now, I have a new motto. It's just like with Jesus on the boat. You know, the storm is going to come. I want to be in the bed sleep. Like, you don't want to be wavering just because chaos is going on around you.
That's right.
So you are a boss. You know what's going to be needed. You know what you've done, right? But every time that you leave that facility, if they decide to stop doing it, the work is stopped, right?
True.
So you're going to have to recreate yourself.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you for that. Miss Max, you wanna close us? Thank you, Dr. McDonald, as always. And we will take you up on that offer. You're welcome anytime.
Absolutely.
Anytime you need these airwaves or our social media,
anytime you want me to ask you something crazy, I'm right here for you, brother. I love you.
Here for that too.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Miss Max.
Yeah, no, I just, shout out to all of our guests today. Thank you for, joining us on IMHO. Great conversation as usual. To all of our listeners who've been with us the past 3 hours, we appreciate you. Remember to engage us. You can find us on Facebook, find us on all the other social media websites. You can give us a call at the station, 434-422-9101. So feel free to reach out because we want to hear from you. Thank you to the cast, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a great show.
It has been
a good show.
Shout out to Marshall over there, Razor.
That's our hey Charles, this is our diversity and inclusion.
That's right.
Over here in the corner.
Like we trying to help.
You guys are modeling. I love it.
We're modeling.
Yes, sir. In reverse.
And I have to say that this show felt I missed the comment, but Aaron Holland Lord. So
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, this show's been real. It was a good first show for the new year, right?
Yeah, very thorough. Yeah,
very a good sense of empowerment came out of the show, and so hopefully all of our listeners receive that from it as well, and
I thought Charles wanted me to shoot up in the ceiling or something.
I was like, bo.
Yeah.
No, you, Max. Max, I just gave the air horn off.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Charles acting up, Max.
I didn't hear it.
Yeah, Charles acting up, Max.
But that was in agreement with what you were saying.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
But hey, that's right. Reach out. We have all the links from today on in the comment thread on our page, our IMHO Talk Show on Facebook, IG. Definitely follow us. We'll have it up on the YouTube page. Hit that website. Me and Miss Max. Oh, you know what? Since we're here, Miss Max, we got to let the folks know that if you ever need us to host, moderate, facilitate, want to thank Kevin again in his office because for the MLK celebration, we got asked back. Max, we must have not did a bad job.
You were all fantastic. It was fantastic.
So we moderated the book reading, for the MLK book, Why We Can't Wait. So, so you just, you can see our pretty faces, y'all. You can reach out to us. You ain't just got to hear, like my silky voice. You can see my voice.
This brother just described himself as silky.
Hey, Stilky. You got to say Stilky.
We need Sharika to go and call in and try to verify.
Signed, sealed, and delivered.
She just sent in a text. She was like, "No, it's raspy, not
I like that.
That's funny.
I'm sorry, Miss Max, for interrupting. You can take us home.
No, I'm good. Yeah. I've really said all I have to say. You guys can add anything if you choose to, but a good show, great show.
Yeah.
Like I said, a great sense of empowerment for the Charlottesville community, and I hope they just take the information that they've heard and kind of run with it.
Oh, I got one thing.
Okay.
You have to promise that when you have things that's going on, you come here and you say it. Because think about it. You can send an email and say, look, mention this on there. And then you can show up in the community. Yeah. Instead of you talking to 10 people in front of you, when Charles pushed that button, you talking to 10,000.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Chucky Hayes did the same thing. You're absolutely right. So I would welcome that for sure. Count me in. And thanks so much for promoting the concert. And please, you all, continue to support that. And please be on the lookout for April 16th.
That's right.
Evening, Ellington's Evening of Music and Poetry. Layla Hathaway. We're going to have national. Oh, I forgot to tell you one important thing that's going to be a connection. And Charles has asked me this as well. And the only reason we didn't do it this year, so for every Black History Month concert that we come to after this one, so next year's, we're going to have a community contest, right, for individual vocalists. And the opposite year, we might do groups and choirs. And whoever the community kind of votes on, they get to open up that concert.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And so for local talent as well, for our Ellington's Evening of Music and Poetry, if there's someone, again, that wants to be able to kind of open that as well, for Layla, please maybe get in contact with you all. Let me know, because we won't do a contest for that one.
Right.
We just continue just to rotate and share. I mean, you all know far better than I who some of that local talent is, and I think it's great to just bring them to bear as well.
Is you gonna have some daycare there, man? I got a lot of kids, and I can't come unless you can watch some of these kids, man. Like,
you know what?
they ain't old enough to watch each other yet, and y'all call CPS on a brother. You know what I'm saying?
Right. If you tell your kids, I'll be right back.
Yeah, I'll be right back. You know what I'm saying?
You know what? That's a great question. I gotta look that up and see what we have at the Paramount that can do that.
Yeah,
So,
have some daycare.
Aaron, do not slide across the stage like Eddie Kane. All right?
Smell like coconut. Yeah, smell like coconut oil and filter fish.
Oh no, I'm not shea butter no more. I'm going baby oil now.
Well, you gonna burn up when July get here, then.
We gotta go for sure now, Max. All right, y'all. IMHO Talk Show.
Y'all take care.
Thank y'all, family.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.